Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, same guy. Al shalosh devarim ha'olam kayim. Right? So this whole mission, this whole chapter has been about the three things. It started out saying on three things the world stands. On Torah and Avoda and Gemilas Osadim. So now we wrap it up. Right? We've now come through hundreds of years. Right? And we're coming to Shimon ben Gamliel, and he says, Al shalosh devarim ha'olam kayim. On three things the world is established. Right? Al hadin, ve'al ha'emes, ve'al ha'shalom. Shenemar, as it says, emes u'mishpat shalom shivtu b'sharechem. Right? Truth and a judgment of peace you should judge within your gates. Emes, din, and shalom. So din relates to Hashem, shalom relates to people, and emes relates to Torah. The world was created for three fundamental relationships. The world was created for a relationship with yourself, with Hashem, and with other people. And the tools to get there, the fundamental underlying tools that make the world work, are Torah and Avoda and Gemilas Hasadim. So this is a different thing. This is, what does it take for a civilization? So this is a more practical concept. It's a different thing. It says, what does a civilization stand on? Right? You're trying to build, a new Egyptian democracy. Right? You invade Iraq and want to make a country. What does it take? You want to build a country. What does it take to build a country? It's a practical question today, right? We're doing nation building all over the world, right? You want, you got Arab Spring. Country tips over, we're putting in a new government. So we think it's democracy. Put democracy in place and all will be good. Here's the question. What does it take to make a civilization? So Superman knows the answer. What does Superman yell? Truth, justice, and the American way. Emes, din, and shalom. America is a civilization built on truth, justice, and shalom. Peace. What's the American way? The American way is barn building. And the American way is, when a hurricane happens and knocks out, a coastal city, everybody in America wants to help. Right? I don't know anybody in New Orleans, but I want to help. Right? My friend who lived in Florida went and rented, a big rig trailer truck, and he parked it in a parking lot and spread the word that 5 days later he was driving to New Orleans. If he had anything he wanted to donate, bring it to the parking lot and load the truck. And then he, recruited a big rig driver to drive the thing to New Orleans, and he filled it with diapers and supplies. He gave him a list, and people just started showing up. Right? That's shalom. We talked about shalom a little while ago. Shalom is, I want peace for you. Right? That's the American way. That's what a civilization needs. Emes is incorruptibility. Right? In order for society to thrive, you need to have truth. Right? Truth grinds all sorts of information and transaction costs out of everything. Right? You give your money to Fidelity or Vanguard. Right? You give your money to a mutual fund company, say, here's my life savings or here's my retirement savings. And they send you a little statement in the mail every 3 months saying, here's what you have. You don't even know what stocks they bought with it. You know nothing. But if they say you have $100,000 or $1 million or $10,000, you can reliably trust that it's true. So where you have corruption, it's an undermining of the whole civilization. That's why our society is so hard on the I'm not saying it's not breaking down, but the reason our society is so hard on the concept of corruption is it destroys everything. Right? If you can, in other countries, if the building code says put in, 3/16" rebar or 5/8" rebar, and you slip the building inspector a couple $100, you can put in, 3/16" rebar. Right? If it's supposed to be, a 40% amalgam in the concrete, and you slip the guy, $100, you can put in a 20% amalgam. And now when the earthquake hits, the building's gone and people die. One of the Rebbeim who's in charge of kashrut, who's very, very big in kashrut, he says, in America, you can drink orange juice that says USDA grade A 100% orange juice. Because you can trust that the U.S. Department of Agriculture inspectors are not going to put their careers on the line to allow the guy to adulterate the orange juice. And the guy who's manufacturing orange juice, it's just not the way we work. We're a country of truth. Pasteurized milk. right? That counts as Chalav Yisrael. You can trust the USDA inspectors that if it says milk, it's milk, right? In China, they have chemicals that read like protein, and they'll dump that chemical into the, right, because it saves them money. Right? He says, if you go to a factory and ask them, do you make, I want you to make oranges for me. Do you ever make dog here? If they think they're a society of cooperation, if they think the answer you want is no, they'll tell you no. It means nothing, right? In Japan, there was the scandal where they were repackaging spoiled milk and just changing the acceptance dates. Dumping it back in. It says, the fact of the matter is, our society works because when I sign a deal with you, for the most part, I can trust that you're going to do your side. Because otherwise, now, if I can't trust you, then I have all sorts of extra costs that I have to incur to verify and protect and manage and inspect and audit, and right? It's hugely inefficient and unproductive. A society thrives on integrity. That I can shake hands with you and know that you're a true guy. And if you're not true, I can't work with you. But he says, to make a civilization, the first thing you need is integrity, is emes, is honesty. The second is din, is justice, is there has to be a court of law. It's one of the laws of B'nai Noach. You can't have a civilization without a court. A society can't thrive if the only way for me to settle a problem with you is to shoot you. Right? What I need is, if you and I have a dispute, we can go in front of an arbitrator, a judge of some sort, and I say, here's what I think is right, and you say, here's what you think is right, and he looks at it and gives you an honest decision and says, here's what's right. You may not like it. It may not come out your way, but there's a methodology. If people feel that they have the ability to get justice, a society can thrive. Without it, when people used to, when they march in the streets yelling, no justice, no peace, right? There's an element to that. Right? In Japan in the good old days, which isn't too long ago, you settled business disputes with mobsters. If you and I had a problem, I set gangsters after you. If people think there's no justice, a civilization can't thrive. Right? I saw a thing, read an article once that said, why is it that the Industrial Revolution really took off in America, but not in the Netherlands or France or much of Europe? And so he went through, and he said, patent law. In America, patent law was so strong, intellectual property law was so strong, that if you invented something, you knew that it was protected long enough for you to make a profit on it. And the courts, justice would prevail and allow you, the court system protected your idea. In Europe, they had no similar concept. So if you invented someone, anyone could copy you the next week. There was no incentive to build anything. There was no way to make enough money to recoup your expense. There was no way to make enough money. You were the high-cost provider because you were the guy who spent all the money inventing it, and everyone else could just knock it off. And it destroyed everything. He says the Industrial Revolution never really took effect. Right? They eventually lagged behind. They copied what we did, but you had no culture of invention because ideas weren't protected. A civilization needs justice. It needs a court system. It needs to have rules that are enforced to thrive. And the last is shalom, is people looking after each other. That I want what's good for you. That I feel your pain to a certain extent. That it's not always only about me. That if you need help getting your barn up, the neighbors will show up and get your barn up. If you need money for food, the neighbors will feed you. If you're dying in the streets, you know what? Even libertarians want the poor fed. Right? They don't want the government to do it. Right? They want individuals or churches or whatever, right? But even libertarians want the poor fed. Even libertarians, you look at the whole healthcare debate, no one says, we just want the poor to die. Let them rot in the street. Right? Everyone accepts that as a civilization, people should be due healthcare that they can't afford. Right? The fact that you can't afford you can't afford to be saved, we don't want them to dump you in the street and let you die in the street. That's shalom. What we don't know is how we want to pay for it. But the underlying concept, we want good for you. Right? So that's emes, din, and shalom. A civilization to survive needs truth and justice and peace.